Very good morning, cadets. I hope you have gone through the two video sessions about chapter 1, 2. That is how, when, and where, and from trade to territory. Company establishes the power. Today, let us briefly discuss what is there in chapter number 3. Chapter number 3, that is ruling countryside. So, chapter number 3, ruling countryside. In this chapter, we are going to study about how the British actually involved in the administration in India. The chapter starts with the painting of Robert Clive accepting the Diwani of Bengal. So Robert Clive accepting the Diwani of Bengal. You can see here Robert Clive. The painting is there. In this Robert Clive accepting the Diwani of Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. This incident is after the Battle of Buxar. That is in the year 1764, Battle of Buxar. In 1765, so officially the British East India Company, which landed in India as a mercantile or trading company, now they started administration in India after the Battle of Buxar, that is in 1764. So in the 1765, what happened? Robert Clive accepting the Diwani of Bengal. What is Diwani? Diwani is nothing but a right to collect the tax. So I repeat, Diwani means right to collect the tax. So in this chapter, we are going to study about very important, that is called the taxation system adopted by the British. As you know, today the government collects tax in the form of GST, that is goods and service tax. Apart from that, we pay profession tax, income tax, excise duty. So there are many ways in which the government collect the tax. Now the question comes here, why the government collect the tax? The government collects the tax because that is the source of revenue for the government for functioning. So government can function only with the help of tax collected by the government from the people. So now, after the Battle of Buxar, the British started administration in India. So British started collecting revenue from India. So that is what we study in this topic for revenue for the company. Company means here the British East India Company. So the British East India Company started collecting revenue from India. Those days, the major source of income or the major source of revenue was collected from the agriculture source, because India was an agrarian economy those days. Today, of course, we are agrarian economy or agriculture based economy, but apart from agriculture, we earn income from industry as well as the tertiary sector, that is service sector. Service sector means banking, insurance, software companies. So today we are not solely or completely dependent on agriculture. We have other source of income. So British felt that if they want to increase their revenue source, they have to introduce certain tax system. So the first system which was introduced by the British called permanent settlement system. permanent settlement system in the year 1793. So permanent settlement system or zamindari system in the later way, Raitwari, Mahalwari, all the system of taxation which we are going to study in this particular chapter. So permanent settlement system was introduced by who? By Cornwallis. Cornwallis was the governor of, Lord Cornwallis was the Governor General of India when the permanent settlement was introduced. So during whose tenure the permanent settlement was introduced? The permanent settlement system was introduced during the time of Charles Cornwallis in the year 1793. Details about permanent settlement system, problems of permanent settlement system, why the permanent settlement system was changed over a period of time, everything we will study when we study this chapter in detail. Later on, we are also going to study about another system of taxation introduced by the British, which is known as Mahalwari system. So what is the second taxation system introduced by the British? That is called Mahalwari. So you see here Mahal. What is Mahal? In British revenue records, Mahal is a revenue estate which may be a village or a group of villages. So what is Mahal? Mahal may be a village or a group of village. So a tax fixed on a village or a group of village is called as Mahalwari system. So we are going to study about Mahalwari system also in this particular chapter. And there are few British officers who are involved in fixing of this taxation system. Holt Mackenzie was also actively involved in the fixation of this particular tax. And details about Mahalwari system. So Mahalwari system came into effect in the year 1922. And in the Mahalwari system, what is Mahalwari system? How Mahalwari system was different from the permanent settlement system? All those things we will study when we are studying this chapter in detail. The third system of taxation introduced during the British period, popularly known as Raitwari system. So Raitwari system, or also called as Munro system. So what is this? So Raitwari system or Munro system, that is what it is given here, the Munro system of taxation. So Raitwari system of taxation was introduced by two personalities are involved. One is Captain Alexander Reid and Thomas Munro. That's why the system is also known as Munro system. So I repeat, Captain Alexander Reid and Thomas Munro. So Thomas Munro extended this system gradually in South India. Captain Alexander Reid was involved in devising a system of taxation in India. So here what we have to understand that British introduced three type of taxation systems in India. I told you tax is a source of revenue for the government. So the major source of revenue is collected mainly from agriculture in those days. So three types of taxations were there. System were introduced in India by the British. First one, the permanent settlement system. Second one, Mahalwari system. And the third one is Munro system. or Rayatwari system. So cadets, please write down, because this system of taxation, even in your when you attend UPSC examination in class 12th, the system of taxation introduced by the British, permanent settlement system, Rayatwari system, Mahalwari system, all questions you can expect, because this is a very important topic for your later general awareness or in the history chapter for the any competitive examination. So we are going to study about the system of taxation introduced by the British in the same chapter. Further, we are going to study about the most important topic, that is how the British converted Indian agriculture system from food based industry to a commercial agriculture system. In India, we used to cultivate for subsistence purpose, means for the purpose of survival, means Indian farmers used to grow crops for the purpose of their own consumption. Leftover is there, then only they used to sell in the market. So most of the time Indian farmers concentrated on agriculture crops which are directly linked with the consumption or food crops. But the British changed the crop pattern of India. That is what topic very clearly says, that crops for Europe. So what do you mean by crops for Europe? Means British forced Indians to grow those crops which were very much essential for the British. So British forced Indians to grow crops for them. That is what. So the British persuaded or forced cultivators, means farmers, to grow in various parts of India to produce what? To produce jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in United Province, wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra, and rice in Madras. Now try to understand, here the sentence is that British persuaded or forced the cultivators to grow the crops. You see the jute. Jute is used for the purpose of those days for packing materials. Okay. Tea, beverage crop, which is not largely consumed by the Indians, British forced them to grow. So British forced Indians to grow cotton because of the industrial revolution in England. In England, large scale factory production of clothes started. So you know very well, for the production of a cloth, cotton is required those days. Today of course you have many alternatives. So British forced Indian farmers to grow cotton so that this cotton can be supplied as a raw material for the British cotton textile industry. So in this chapter we are going to study about that, and very important, the indigo. Later in class 10th you will study about Champaran movement. Now you see a crop named indigo, British forced Indians to cultivate. Blue rebellion, in later stages we'll study about blue rebellion. Now what is indigo? Indigo is a crop or a plantation crop which was used as dye, cloth dye. dye is nothing but a color. So indigo was used for dyeing of clothes, coloring of clothes in European countries, especially Italy, France and Britain. So what you have to understand, there is a huge demand for indigo in European countries, especially in Britain, France and Italy. And Indian climatic condition was very much suitable for growth of or production of indigo. That's why Indians were forced to grow indigo cultivation. That is what we are going to study about indigo cultivation. Then we are also going to study about types of cultivation of indigo. That is niche cultivation, then variety cultivation. Then slowly Indian farmers understood that the cultivation of indigo is a sign of exploitation, because the indigo cultivated by the Indian farmers purchased for a throwaway price by the British government or the British East India Company. So slowly Indian farmers were reluctant to grow indigo. So when the Indian farmers were reluctant to grow indigo, then the British officers forced Indians to grow indigo. That's why there are a lot of rebellion. That is what Blue Rebellion, even the Champaran movement led by Mahatma Gandhi in 1916 and 17. So that is what, how even a crop. So we are going to study about the cultivation of indigo, types of cultivation of indigo, that is niche cultivation, variety cultivation, and problems of niche cultivation, problems of variety cultivation. All those things we are going to study in this particular chapter. Apart from that, we are also going to study about how indigo was produced in India. So you can see here how indigo is produced in India. You can see this is a indigo plant, an indigo factory located near indigo plants. So painting, you can see here a lot of places where fermentation is done, then of course it is dipped so that the coloring of things are done. You see, the indigo villages were usually around indigo factories owned by the planters. After harvest, the indigo plant was taken to the vats in the indigo factory. 3 or 4 vats were needed to manufacture a dye. Each vat had a separate function. The leaves stripped off indigo plants were first soaked in a warm water for several hours. When the plants fermented and liquid began to boil, the bubbling. So the huge explanation, of course, it is given how the indigo plants and indigo cultivation became a sign of exploitation, and later of course it led to Blue Rebellion. That is what we are studying about, Blue Rebellion, how the concept of gumastas or the tax collectors, Lathials means present day policemen. So all the concept of introduced during the time of British, and finally it involved in various struggles and the movements. So those we are going to study in this particular chapter. So chapter number 3. So I told you about marking of Champaran movement. So Champaran, marking of Champaran movement in 1917 by Mahatma Gandhi. So cadets, in the chapter number 3 we are going to study about ruling countryside. Ruling countryside means mainly we are concentrating on the taxation introduced by the British, different types of taxation, problems of taxation, Then we are also going to study about crops for Europe and how indigo, a crop later looked as a sign of exploitation by the Indians. So this is what we are going to study in the chapter number 3. Please write down the important point which you feel. Of course, this is a brief introduction to the chapter number 3. When we discuss the chapter in detail, of course, the minute detail of each and every aspect of this chapter we will discuss. Anyhow, I'll meet you in the next video session. Thank you. Wish you a wonderful day. Thank you very much.